In this video, I'm going to share 12 stupidly simple habits. If you incorporate one or ideally multiple of these in your life, it basically guarantees that your next year is going to be the best one yet. Check out the 12th one if you want to start with just one. Tier 1, the unsticking habits. You can't have a great year if you never start. These 4 habits get you moving when your brain is screaming at you to stay still. Habit number 1, the trash draft. Be honest. How many times have you sat down to tackle something, full of energy, and then got completely paralyzed halfway through? Here's what happens. Every time you sit down to say, organize your finances or design that kitchen makeover, your brain immediately goes, this needs to be perfect. So you spend an unjustifiable amount of time researching the best way, or making it good from the get-go. This is a trap that's feeding your brain's tendency to optimize rather than finish. And when you realize it's not working, your brain conveniently remembers something else you should do first. Here's what you should remember. You can't edit a blank page, but you can edit a terrible one. So give yourself permission to suck. Call that first effort your trash draft. The goal isn't to make something good. The goal is to make something exist. Because here's the secret. Once it exists, momentum takes over, and you stop waiting for inspiration. I use this for every single video script. My first draft is almost always garbage. Then the momentum takes over, and I begin shaping that garbage into gold. Here is how you can implement it. Whatever you're avoiding, set a timer for 10 minutes and create the trashiest version possible. Don't think. Don't edit. Just get it out. You'll be shocked at how fast you finish. Habit number 2, the done list. You ever get to the end of the day and feel like you accomplished absolutely nothing? Like, you did stuff, but when you look at your to-do list, it's still full, and you feel like a failure? That's because you're using the wrong measurement system. So here's the fix. Flip that list over. At the end of the day, write down everything you actually did. Small stuff, such as made dinner instead of ordering out again. You'll be amazed. That list gets long fast. And suddenly your brain goes, oh wait, I actually did a lot today. This isn't about lying to yourself. It's about showing your brain visual proof that you're moving forward, because your brain runs on evidence, and when it sees evidence that you're productive, it gives you more energy to keep going. It's a psychological hack. Guilt drains you. Progress fuels you. So start celebrating what you did, even the tiny stuff, especially the tiny stuff, because tiny things compound into massive things over 365 days. Now, celebrating what you did is great, but you know what's even better? Making good things happen automatically. Habit number 3, the lazy design. Here's a question. Why do you doom scroll in bed instead of, say, reading or doing something meaningful? Is it because you lack discipline? Not really. It's because your phone is in your hand and that other stuff requires putting it down and stepping out of your comfort zone. Convenience always wins. So stop fighting your laziness. Design around it. If you want to build a habit, make it ridiculously easy. Want to actually call your parents more? Put their contact as your first speed dial and set a weekly phone reminder that pops up when you're commuting. Want to read more? Put the book on your pillow so you literally have to move it to go to sleep. Similarly, if you want to break a habit, add friction. So, if you want to stop mindlessly checking news before bed, charge your phone in another room. Want to stop hitting snooze? Put your alarm across the room. Once you're up, you're up. The shift here is massive. You stop relying on willpower, and you start relying on convenience, which works 24/7. So be strategically lazy. Make the good stuff easy. Make the bad stuff annoying. And let your environment do the heavy lifting. This way, you'll build more good habits in this year than you did in the last 5 years combined. Habit number 4, the just-in-time rule. Answer this. Are you a learner or just an information hoarder? Look at the watch later section on YouTube, and you will get the answer. If you have multiple videos there, you're hoarding. There's a difference between learning and preparing to learn. Here's the rule. Only consume information that solves a problem you have today. Because here's what happens when you hoard knowledge. You feel like you're behind. You feel like everyone else knows something you don't, and you never actually do anything because you're too busy learning how to do it. But when you switch to just-in-time learning, everything changes. You become a problem solver instead of a knowledge hoarder. You feel capable instead of overwhelmed. So next time you see an interesting article or video, ask yourself, do I need this information to solve a problem I have this week? If the answer is no, close the tab. It'll still be there if you need it later. And if you forget about it, it wasn't important anyway. Tier 2. Habits for getting more results from less effort. You can be unstuck and still go nowhere if you're working on the wrong things or doing everything yourself. These next 4 habits are about leverage, getting more results from less effort. Habit number 5. The who default. Here's something I learned way too late. There are tasks that only you can do, like working out, but then there's everything else, and most of us default to doing everything else ourselves because we think that's what responsible adults do. But here's the shift. When a task lands on your plate, ask yourself, does this require my specific skills, knowledge, or relationships to get done? If the answer is no, ask, who can do this? Can you pay your neighbor's kid to mow your lawn? Or can you go for a healthy meal box subscription instead of shopping around for the right ingredients? You aren't buying food. You are buying back 3 hours of your Sunday. Look, most of us resist this. We think, they won't do it as well as me, or I should be able to handle this myself. But when you add up the mental energy, delegation stops being lazy and starts being smart. You're not a one-person army. You're the CEO of your own life. And a good CEO knows what deserves their attention and what doesn't. Now, even when you delegate well, you'll still have recurring tasks. And that's where the next habit saves you hours every single week. Habit number 6, the template reflex. Here's a wild idea. Never solve the same problem twice. If you pack for the same type of work trip repeatedly, create a checklist in your phone with everything down to which chargers, because starting from scratch is exhausting. So here's the rule. The second time you do something, create a template. Don't wait for the third time. Screenshot your packing list. And now you've got an asset. Something that works perfectly every time, even when you're tired, stressed, or distracted. You stop relying on memory, and you start building external systems, which work even when you're barely functional. Plus, when you delegate, you just hand them the template. But even with all this efficiency, most people still waste energy chasing the wrong goals, which brings us to the most counterintuitive habit on this list. Habit number 7, the anti-resolution. It's almost the new year, which means everyone's going to start making these elaborate goals and success plans. And by February, most will quit. That's the weight of ambition. It can be exhausting. So here's a different approach. Don't only plan what you will do. Also, plan for what you won't do. Seriously. Sit down right now and ask yourself, what are the things that would absolutely guarantee a miserable year? Maybe it's taking on more debt for stuff you don't need, or staying in a job that's crushing your soul. Write those down, and then simply avoid doing those things. That's it. You don't need to be brilliant. You just need to not be stupid. This is called inversion, and it's one of the most powerful mental models you can use, because avoiding disasters is often more valuable than chasing wins. Think about it. If you avoid debt, injury, and toxic situations, you're already ahead of most people. You don't need to be extraordinary, you just need to not sabotage yourself. Habit number 8, the quarterly purge. Here's something you'll probably agree to. Life naturally gets cluttered. You say yes to too many things. And before you know it, you're paying for subscriptions you forgot about, committed to weekly obligations you don't even enjoy anymore. So here's the rule. Every quarter, delete one recurring obligation from your life. Could be a subscription you haven't used in months, a monthly meeting that accomplishes nothing, a volunteer commitment that's become a burden, a social obligation that drains you. Just one. But do it ruthlessly, without guilt. Because here's the truth. The stuff you said yes to last year might not serve you this year, and that's okay. You're allowed to change. You're allowed to outgrow commitments. So every quarter, audit your life. Look at your bank statement for subscriptions. Look at your calendar for recurring events. Look at your energy levels around certain people and ask, is this still worth it? If the answer is no, cut it. Because the most valuable thing you own isn't money. It's attention. And attention is non-renewable. Once it's spent, it's gone. All right, you're working smart now, but what happens when life punches you in the face? Because it will. Tier 3, the sanity habits. You could nail every habit so far and still have a terrible year if you don't know how to handle chaos. These last 4 habits protect your sanity when everything falls apart. Habit number 9, the good response. Let's say your basement floods, or you get passed over for that promotion. Why is this happening to me? Would be a normal reaction. But that victim mode ruins your whole week. There's a better way. When chaos hits, just say one word out loud. Good. That's it. Just good. Sounds insane, right? But here's why it works. Your basement flooded. Good. Now you'll finally fix that drainage problem you've been ignoring. Didn't get the promotion? Good. Now you know exactly where you stand and can make a real decision about your future. This isn't toxic positivity. You're not pretending everything's fine. You're just refusing to let the situation control you. Because the moment you say good, something shifts. You stop asking why me and start asking what now. You stop being the victim and become the problem solver. And suddenly, you're not paralyzed. You're just dealing with it, which is way less stressful. Plus, bonus, when you tell this story later, it's actually interesting. Nobody wants to hear my week was ruined, but they do want to hear, so my basement flooded at 2 a.m. and here's what I did. So when something goes wrong, don't spiral. Now, even with this mindset, there's one thing that still trips people up: the fear of judgment. Habit number 10, the invisible mindset. Quick question. How much time do you spend worrying about what other people think of you? Too much, right? Here's the secret they don't tell you. Nobody's thinking about you. They're too busy worrying about what you think of them. Seriously, you think people are judging your life choice, but they're too busy questioning their own. You think everyone's watching your every move, but to everyone else, you're just an extra in their movie. They're thinking about themselves, because everyone's got main character syndrome, which means you're basically invisible. And that's the most freeing realization you can have. Because if you're invisible, you can do whatever you want. Make the career change, start the side project at 45, post the imperfect thing. Nobody cares as much as you think they do. And the few people who do care enough to judge, they're not your people anyway. So stop performing for an audience that isn't watching. So go be invisible. It's the ultimate freedom. Speaking of freedom, let's talk about something that disappears if you're not careful. Time itself. Habit number 11, the time slower. Ever notice how time just vanishes? Like you blink and it's December already, and you're sitting there going, wait, what did I even do this year? That's because you're on autopilot. And when you're on autopilot, your brain doesn't create memories. It just skips. So here's how you slow down time. Introduce novelty. Every single week, do one new thing. Listen to a genre you normally skip. Bluegrass, jazz, whatever. It doesn't have to be big. It just has to be new. Because novelty creates memory markers. And memory markers make time feel longer. Think about it. When you were a kid, summers felt like they lasted forever. Why? Because everything was new. New places, new games, new friends. Your brain was making memories constantly. But as an adult, you do the same stuff every day. Same commute, same lunch spot, same evening routine, and your brain goes, cool, nothing to remember here. So if you want the year to feel full and rich instead of like a blur, stop sleepwalking. Make it weird, make it uncomfortable, make it memorable, because a year full of new experiences feels twice as long and way more worth living. And when you look back at the year, you won't say, "Ooh, where did it go?" You'll say, man, we did so much. But here's the reality. Even with all of this, you'll still have terrible days. And that's where the final habit comes in. Habit number 12, the non-zero day. Let's be real. Some days are just trash. Maybe you're sick or you're exhausted. So here's a rule for those days. On your worst days, don't aim for 100%. Aim for anything above zero. One push-up, one paragraph. Just don't let the day go to zero. Because here's what happens when you go zero. You break the chain. And once the chain is broken, it's so much harder to start again. This isn't about intensity, it's about continuity. Intensity burns out. Continuity compounds. And that's the difference between a great year and a wasted one. All right, there you have it. The 12 habits to change the course of your year. You don't need to do all 12 tomorrow. That's insane. Pick one and build from there.